I'll go with your
We'll
flow.
riff. We're just going to riff. Saturday night. It's just a little bit past 8:30, 8:41. Charlie always asks me, he's like, when do you guys go on the air? I'm like, around 8:30-ish
Ish.
on Saturday nights. This is Parenting Porcupines. We are the Libertarian Moms. And tonight we're talking about being in a big tent party and how all big tents got clowns. So I don't know if you're on my part of the internet, but my part of the internet has been talking about Barbieheimer. And Barbieheimer is watching Oppenheimer and Barbie on the same day, back to back, right? So the whole idea here was like 3 hours worth of Oppenheimer, which is a very serious, devastating, atomic bomb movie, and then follow it up with 2 hours of Barbie. I will say I did the Barbieheimer scenario. We saw Oppenheimer last night and saw Barbie today. We saw Oppenheimer first. We're trying to not figure out if Holly gets to see it or not. It's not safe for kids, just FYI. Not only is it rated R, but there's some, anyway, we can talk about that some other time. Point is, my corner of the internet was talking about this. Holly's corner of the internet was talking about this. Charlie's corner of the internet, he had no clue. He didn't know that Barbie was even coming out with a movie, right? He's like, I don't even know that that's a thing. And so what it said to us was there are neighborhoods on the internet and people are saying, doing, talking about things. And we think it's so loud because we're seeing so much of it in our neighborhood. But in fact, it just sort of depends on how you're curating your internet experience. So something happened on the internet in the Libertarian Party this week that sort of created a firestorm in different kinds of ways. And we're going to unpack that today. Our episode is called All Big Tents Got Clowns. So Jessica, talk about what happened on the internet this week in the Libertarian Party.
She was a senator in Ohio. She's a Democrat. Her name is Nina Turner. And a lot of libertarians typically will respond to her on Twitter because she has some very liberal policies. And this week she tweeted that, and this was her tweet, insulin should be free, medicine should be free. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire's Twitter team tweeted at her, Nina Turner picking crops should be free. She's Black. So as you can imagine, that immediately became problematic. And so having run for statewide office and always talking to people, trying to bring people in, trying to get people to open up and hear about alternative ways to manage things in our community rather than doing it through government. I'm always talking to people, and I'm talking to people who are on the left. I'm talking to people who are on the right. I'm talking to people who don't know where they are. They're somewhere in the middle, or they're just not sure. And so as I talk to these people and they become interested, they start following along with these things, right? And so after this happened, there were other states that chimed in and backed up Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, not all states, obviously, and LP National actually came to their defense as well. And it was just so inappropriate. It was disgusting. Mm-hmm. And I started getting text messages and phone calls from friends and family, people in the community that I've been talking to, from my colleagues at work, because just Monday, a professional organization that I recently became a part of did a feature on me on social media. And as the thing you didn't know about me, I talked about my involvement with the party. and then this comes out. So, yeah. People are seeing it and they're asking, and so it's alarming and concerning.
Melissa, share your view of this. Did you see this? Did it show up in your feed? Were you first made aware of this happening on Twitter?
Oh no, I don't Twitter. I Slack. when our state chair posted it in Slack, mm-hmm. is when I first became aware of it.
Right.
I can't Twitter.
Yeah, so I too became aware of it when it showed up in the state channel, in our Slack channel, and of course I see a lot of these comments back to Nina Turner. I see a lot of the stuff she has to say too. She is one of these people who believes healthcare is a right. Y'all know
Mhm.
that's some of the dumbest shit I ever heard say. I mean, like that is not a thing, right?
Yeah.
You can attack. You can attack an idea or rebut an idea without resorting to racist personal attacks.
That's exactly the point I was
Yeah.
trying to get to.
Your stance has no merit.
Yeah.
Right, right. And the implication to a black woman about picking crops is very definitely a reference to slavery and racism. Like it is
Absolutely.
very clearly that that's what it is, and it just does not. It doesn't represent the values in our party. It doesn't represent who we are as libertarians. We don't treat people that way. We just don't. And for a while now, there's been a culture, a fringe in our party
Mm.
of people who just have no respect for anybody.
No,
Just no respect for anybody. And
they
that
want
fringe
attention.
exactly. That fringe is out there talking about how we need stronger messaging and we need to do a better job of bringing people to the party. And then you go out and say this kind of garbage.
That's not how you do it.
Who's that going to bring?
Yeah.
Certainly
We
the
don't
wrong
want the
kind of
kind
people.
of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think that's a funny, witty, acceptable comment,
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, so
hanging out.
my kids did not know about this, and today we were in the car because, just for context, some of the follow-up tweeting that was happening from other libertarians and other state party Twitters and national were the long short of it is that to pay for these things, you have to tax people, and taxation is a form of slavery, which I think is a reach. But anyway, so we were in the car today, and my husband was saying something about taxes, and I said, well, some people would say taxes are slavery, like, because he and we've talked about this whole situation, right? And Caldwell in the back seat kind of chuckled, and he was like, that is so ridiculous. And I said, yeah. And I said, some people are saying that this week or whatever. And he made another comment, and I said, well, actually on Twitter, one of the Libertarian Party accounts told a black senator, previous senator from Ohio, that she should pick crops for free. And his face went from like that, absurd laughter to complete disgust. My 11-year-old son looked at me and he was like, Mom, that's terrible. He said, that is the most racist thing I've ever heard. He's 11. He's 11. And he was not prompted to say that. He immediately knew that was wrong. So I don't know.
So I feel, when did all this start? When did that Twitter stuff go down?
Wednesday.
Okay. So
I think it was Wednesday.
Tuesday, we were at the county council meeting because I'm the Richland County chair. We were at the county council meeting, and we had libertarian T-shirts on because that's who we are, and had a number of people comment on our T-shirts and kind of say, "Hey, cool, I dig that," right? So that's good, right? There's some people in the community that are feeling good about us, and then something comes down on Wednesday, and you go, "Wait a second."
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I think
actually, sorry, this all started. I'm looking at it now. It all started Tuesday night, like late Tuesday night. So Wednesday was, I think, when it blew up. But we were trending. Libertarian was trending at number 9 on Twitter for like 2 days because of this.
Yeah. So I want to unpack this just a little bit, not giving New Hampshire any more attention than they are asking for, but just kind of thinking about our position as libertarians in freedom of association. And we believe that you have the right to associate with organizations that you feel have common goals and interests that you have, and that when you don't want to associate with them anymore, you should have the right to disassociate from them. So we've seen a lot of conversation around disassociation, and it ends up going into secession conversations. And as South Carolina, we're just going to go hard pass on secession, right? Like as a state libertarian party, we're going to hard pass on secession. We're just going to say, been there, done that. We're not trying to do that again. But in terms of this association conversation, it really is about whether or not you are the people in your group are exhibiting the same values that you're exhibiting. And I'll go back to in June during Pride Month, where there were Pride festivals, Pride marches, rallies, experiences, right, where people were just acting a fool. And there were a lot of people, and I've got a lot of friends in the gay community that were coming forward and saying, like, that is not us. That is not who we are. And you're losing ground for us. People are losing respect for us because of the way you're behaving in public and claiming to be part of our pride and our experience. And I think that might be the heart of this controversy with these Twitter conversations is LP New Hampshire acts like they're one of us. And then LP National acts like they're one of us. And then they act like this. And we go, now, wait a second. That's not who we are. That doesn't represent SCLP. And so I think there was a sense there of being betrayed by the National. And then also, like, that's not who we are. And we did post, I don't know if you have it up on your Twitter, but Casey did post a response to this for the South Carolina Libertarian Party. People can find that at the SCLP handle.
It was a great response. Yeah.
I thought it was perfect.
Yep. He called out New Hampshire and then offered actual solutions to the price to what her original complaint was, which is how you should answer that anyways, instead of with personal.
Right. We've gotten into a time in politics where name calling seems to be okay. And we're not the only party to be doing it. I mean, it's happening across the spectrum where what we need is leadership. And what we have is memes and social media. So do you think people can be leaders on social media? Do you think people can demonstrate leadership and have political debate and conversation on social media? Is that a place for that?
I mean, I think there is a place for that. You look at what like Spike Cohen, Justin Amash, those two guys do a really good job of how they present themselves on social media and how they interact on social media with other people. Even when they do call people out, they call them out for their bad policies, right? They don't make it a personal attack. So I think it can be done. You know, the problem is when you have a big tent like this, or, you know, whatever, it's easy to be, as Matt Hicks always says, it's easy to be a big fish in a little pond, right? Because we are still small. And so you have these people who can get involved, and they get involved, but they don't get involved for the right reasons. They get involved because they want attention. They want to be popular. They want to be seen. And they do things like weasel their way into managing a social media account. And then all hell breaks loose because, you know, hey, we can get attention that way. Right. And I think that's where the social media downfall starts. So you have to have the right people in the right places. You have to have a good strategy. Like we at the South Carolina Libertarian Party, we have a social media strategy. We have guidelines for what we post, when we post it, and we stick to that because that way we're not going off course. We're not opening ourselves up to have those interactions that leave people with a negative experience with us, because we want our experiences with people to be positive, right? Because that's how you get people to open up. That's how you get people to talk to you and how you get them to listen to you too.
Well, and it's how you grow the party.
Yeah.
Melissa, what would you say is the strength or the biggest challenge? Because you've been watching our Facebook numbers. What would you say the biggest challenge of trying to reach people through social media is, in terms of, like, can we really be leaders there? Can we really express new ideas and get people on board with new ideas there? Or is it just a flaming shit show that we should all run from as fast as possible? I'm sort of voting on the second one, by the way. If you can't tell, I absolutely hates all things social media. So. Well, that's not entirely true. I am an Instagram reel slut. I will sit on my couch and watch Instagram reels and just watch and laugh my ass off. I mean, I don't post anything, right? But I'm just out there, like, especially the cowboys that dance around with no shirt on. I'm all in on that. What do you think, Melissa?
These two women, they're crazy. Yeah. I don't know. I do the social media, just Facebook, no others, because I'm old, so I just Facebook. But I do the posts for all of our, I always want to say unorganized counties,
right?
Just so that there's something engaging people, let people in their area know we exist, we want help, come out, do things. And I don't understand it. I don't understand engagement. I don't understand the behind the scenes calculations that go on. I just try and,
there's a lot
we have a book recommendation. We have weekly questions. We have the, you might be a libertarian.
Right.
Weekly, if you think you own your own body, you might be a libertarian.
Yeah.
Just
well, I recently hired
comments. I don't know.
I recently hired someone to manage the social media accounts that I had from the campaign, my Instagram and Facebook. And when I was interviewing her, we sat down and we had in-depth conversation about what my goals were for those pages and, what I was trying to do with them. And she, within 20 minutes, we had a complete strategy. So there are people who fully understand. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a very useful tool for reaching a lot of people with minimal effort, right? Because you don't have to physically go to them. You're there in the palm of their hand.
I would say with minimal resources because it's free, right? I mean, you can, with the exception of boosting posts and boosting, ads and things like that. I mean, for the most part, those social media accounts, you can get some decent traction for free, and you can post your messages out there. People want to learn more about you. They can go to your social media page and see what you've been posting, and kind of get to know you a little bit better. So that's the thing of is social media forever? It kind of is, because whatever you're putting out there, people are going to come and find it, and they're going to hold. I mean, there's a dozen or so where people will come and tell Spike that he's contradicting himself, and they'll have these old tweets that they think are contradictions, and he'll go, "No, friends, here's the receipts," and you can see where he's trying to be as consistent as possible with messaging. And I think I've kind of adopted Andrew Heaton's perspective on this, which is I don't want to be wrong any longer than I have to be. So I have no problem with people changing their perspective when new information gets introduced and they understand the problem differently, or they have firsthand experience with the problem. I don't have any problem with that. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with social media being a record. I think there's something wrong with us using social media as a weapon. And I think in some cases, when people are all about, really better messaging or attacking the left or the right, or trying to intentionally go and, bring people down a notch or whatever, all of that sort of vindictive behavior on social media, I'm not a fan of any of that. And I think I find that there's quite a bit of it. And so the more I see of it, the less interested I am in participating in social media. Nothing to add there. Nope, we're good. Okay.
Yeah,
Casey's
agree.
never gonna, it's fine. You'll never get elected, Casey. That's fine. All right. Because I'm just not gonna Facebook. I'm just not gonna. All right. So every party has fringe members, right? We know the left is dealing with the extra woke. We know the right is dealing with their fringe right. So don't we have fringe members as well in the Libertarian Party?
We absolutely
the keys to the LPNH Twitter
and national.
Yeah, we've got
several other
too.
states. Yeah, we do.
Some crazy people around here too. There was the very first convention we ever went to in Orlando, where some people were walking by, and Jess and I both are just like, "What is that? This is not a rock concert." There's but part of that is sort of the let the freak flag fly feel of the Libertarian Party. So I guess as long as you're not hurting anybody else, we're okay with that. It's where you are hurting somebody else that we're not okay with it.
Well, I think we have to draw a line somewhere, right? I mean, there has to be a line that
A
you
line of
can't cross.
decency.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You can't, when an official LP page is putting out something that is racist, whether they want to admit it or not, and they may come for me for that. I don't really care. I really don't care. It is what it is. It was racist. And it doesn't matter if in your tiny little brain you recognize that or not. It doesn't matter. It matters that the majority of people outside of your tiny little echo chamber who saw it thought it was racist. Like, it is what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. All right. And you knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing. You did it on purpose.
If you were arguing with Bill Nye the Science Guy, would you have said that to him? No, you would not. You
No.
said it because she's black.
Yeah. And
That's the
so,
only reason.
you know, in that situation, that's not okay. And I think we do have a responsibility, because in our party, we talk about how important it is that we extend the same liberty to people that we want to have for ourselves. I want to have the liberty to say what I think, right? But I also expect people to hold me accountable when what I say is wrong.
Mhm.
And what they said, what they tweeted was wrong. And they should be held accountable for that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. And so, and they haven't been held accountable because what they've
Exactly.
gotten is exactly what they wanted, which is attention. And that's the challenge I have with social media, to go back to that piece of the conversation, is that when we respond in any capacity, we amplify that. And even if we're amplifying it by saying, hey, look over here, these guys are wrong, they're assholes, we're still amplifying it. We're amplifying it right now by even talking about it. And I guess that's where I struggle with it, because we were talking about, should we even have this conversation on the show tonight? And I was like, I just hate to give them any more airtime. Like, I hate to give them any more attention, because that's what they want. And these, the people that make their living on attention, they'll say and do whatever they have to do to get it. And the only weapon we have is to not give it to them. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's the only weapon we have, unless we want to go out there stomping our feet, begging for the same amount of attention in a different way.
But I don't think, I want to say this though, it's very similar to the Moms for Liberty conversation, right? Because at some point, they're no longer just getting that bad attention. They're doing damage, right? They are doing damage. And these people are out there saying these things as representatives of Libertarian Party affiliates. It does damage. And when it does damage to the Libertarian name. It does damage to people like us who want to run for public office, right? So if I decide to run for, I don't know, let's say I decide to run for governor in 2026, and this shit comes up, I'm going to have to defend against this, right? And the more it happens, and it would be different if it were just one state affiliate who did this, but the fact that multiple states have backed them up, doubled down on this, and even national doubled down on this, that's damaging to us as a whole. It's damaging to all the work we do. And I think when you look at it that way, it's a different conversation, because at that point, I think we have a responsibility to call it out and say, this is not the behavior that we expect. This behavior is unacceptable. And we won't tolerate it.
Yeah. We don't endorse it. We don't want to be part of it. Yeah. I don't disagree with that. It's not the kind of thing you can ignore. Certainly. Right. And I guess my position as far as the social media stuff is concerned is it is such a small neighborhood. It is still a small side of the internet. It's still a small part of the internet. It's people on Twitter. Yes,
but as soon as a libertarian, gets Justin Amash wants to run for president, ABC, NBC, all of them are going to dig through and find anything to use against him that they can. Well, and they'll find that tweet, and they'll report about the tweet, and they'll ask him about the tweet, because
and you take a page out of the Republicans' playbook and out of the Democrats' playbook, because Republicans are having to go around and respond to things that Marjorie Taylor Greene has done.
Yeah.
And what do they say? Look, I'm not responsible for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let her voters make choices about her. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, she's in our party, but I'm not responsible for her. I can't answer for her. She has to answer for herself. You got to ask her herself. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that strategy either. Being like, I don't disagree with Casey putting something up with SCLP, distancing ourselves from this remark. Like, go on the record as saying that's not who we are. Certainly not in South Carolina. That's not who we are. Go on the record. I have no problem with that. But at the end of the day, we're always going to have to answer for those people. Everybody that runs with a libertarian flag is going to have to answer for the crazy pots in the Libertarian Party. And they do it in the Democratic Party too. They do it in the Republican Party too. And at some point, you just got to get to that place where you go, that person is not representative of me. And I don't think they're representative of my party. But you'll have to take it up with them. Their problems are their problems. And so I'm kind of on a turn, and it sounds like turn the other cheek. And part of it is I didn't get any feedback. Nobody in my corner of the internet asked me about this. Nobody paid attention to this. In fact, I have one friend of mine that's a libertarian that says he thinks everybody he knows is libertarian. They just don't know it. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about that. Right. That's great. Let's talk about what you think it means to be a libertarian. That's a wonderful way to get into this conversation. Even he didn't come back and be like, what happened on Twitter this week? It was like, it's like a non-thing in my corner of the internet. It was like a non-thing. So I think that's the other part of it too, is not blowing things so far out of proportion. This isn't, the no new taxes speech that George Bush Sr. gave back in the day before social media, where read my lips, you know what I mean? And then you're held to that for the rest of your career. I mean, come on, man, things change, times change, right? So I don't think I would have any problem saying that doesn't represent me. People who know me, that doesn't represent me. They know that. And it doesn't represent the SCLP either. My cheeks are bright pink because my fan is not on. Can you see how I'm getting warmer and warmer? I'm getting a little suntan here. To turn my little ring light down so I don't like burn my face off. All right. What else? Add on to this.
So I think an important thing to address here is, what is the lesson in this for our kids, right? Because we are
always
here to talk
Caldwell's
about
the one you said. Yeah.
kiddos.
Always.
And it's, I have one who is a teenager and he is on social media. Caldwell is not on social media. But I think this is a really good example, a really good lesson in everything that you do, everything that you say potentially has consequences, and you have to measure your words, right? And don't be an asshole. I mean,
above all, just don't be an asshole.
Don't be racist and don't be an asshole. It is really not that hard.
But I think the other part of the conversation is going back to the Barbieheimer thing. I mean, Holly's on a corner of the internet that I'm not anywhere near. So what she's hearing related to gender dysphoria and trans laws and this kind of thing, when she says to me, like, Mom, I heard they were going to make this law, blah, blah. And she starts explaining it to me. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go look it up. Let's go see what that's all about. Like, let's find some other sources and let's like dig into this and read some news articles and that let's not just rely on what we saw on TikTok. Even if it was, patched and retalked or whatever they call it again and again and again, even it's the same message from 6 different creators or 30 different creators, that doesn't make it true, right? Just because you've seen it 30 times doesn't make it true. Let's go take a look and see what we can find out about this and see if we think this is a real thing, right? So educate yourself. I think that's the other part to teach your kids too, is like what you're hearing on social media doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
Anybody can say anything they want.
Yeah. But I think it was also, I was also really proud of SCLP for putting out the tweets that they put out in response to this. And so that's another thing is showing that not all people are going to agree with that. And some people are going to step up and do the right thing, even when it might put them in a difficult position later, might, put them under attack, because that happens a lot on the internet too. So,
and
I think there's a lesson there too.
Because don't think Nina Turner doesn't know that what she's doing. I mean,
Right.
her tweets are meant for the exact same purpose. They're out there to generate interest too. They're out there to start engagement as well. She knows people disagree with things like a $35 minimum wage, right? Like
Yeah.
she knows those things that she's saying are unpopular as well. And she's putting them out there on purpose to get her traction too. So everybody's got incentives. They're all doing things for a reason.
Yeah.
I think that's critical to talk to your kids about as well. That was the last question we got from our one viewer was, what does this have to do with parenting? We answered that before you dropped off, viewer.
Yeah. My dad always said, fair, whether it's fair or not, you are judged by the company.
Yep.
So if you're kids, if you're hanging out with someone and they're saying dumbass shit, either leave and don't hang out with them or call them on it.
Yeah.
Because whether you agree or not, if you hang out with them and don't say anything, you're complicit.
Yeah.
It's assumed you agree.
Yeah. And if people think your friend is a racist and you're friends with them, they think you're a racist too.
Yep.
I mean, hands down. So I'll finish with this last little piece because I'm wearing my Clemson hat. As Charlie and I were trying to make sense of this when you pitched it, like, hey, let's do this instead. And I was like, let me think this through and see what do I really have to say about this. I was like, I'm a huge Clemson fan. Charlie and I are both Clemson grads. The reason we feel like we have something in common with other Clemson alum is because we all went to undergrad there. Like we had the same undergrad, not the same, but similar undergraduate experiences at Clemson. We're fans, Tiger fans. We want to see them do well. We want to see them win, blah, blah, blah. Are there asshole Clemson fans? Yes. Are there Clemson fans that are mean to our visitors? Yes. Do Clemson fans show their ass and say mean shit on the internet? Yes, they do. Right. And what do? I apologize for my fellow Clemson fans. Like as we're walking out of the stadium, when I hear people harassing our visitors, and that I should say this, if I hear people harassing our visitors, because it very rarely happens, I don't even have to speak up because 5 or 6 other Clemson fans will speak up and shut them down. We don't treat our visitors that way. We're grateful that they're here. We're glad that they came here. We thank them for coming, even when they beat us, right? So it's our hospitality toward them that makes them want to come back. And that's a reputation that we have at Clemson. So if that's your affiliation, and I'm proud of it, then you protect it. And we have an affiliation with the Libertarian Party, with the Libertarian National Party, right? And we want to protect it until they go out there and show their ass, in which case we have to go, well, you know what? We're proud of the South Carolina Libertarian Party. I'll just throw that website up here in case any of you wants to go out there and donate to them, sclp.org. We're proud of what we're doing in South Carolina, but we are not affiliated with that national level bullshit. And we're certainly not affiliated with New Hampshire.
Yeah.
They gotta do their own thing. They got to swim their own way, sink or swim their own way. All right.
I just want to let y'all know this conversation has made my eye twitch. It's been twitching the whole time.
Feeling a little bit too much stress over internet drama. A little too much stress. So next week, though, we're going to take on, once again, the crisis cycle. And we're going to talk about some more internet drama, which is the drama that's been pushing forward a specific film. And so if you've not yet seen any of the kerfuffle around this film, you are not in my corner of the internet because it has been all over the internet on my side. So next week we'll bring that on, and that'll be our last show of the season. It'll be episode 10, and we'll get that knocked out next week. So thank you, ladies, for this tonight. Thank you, Jessica, for standing up to New Hampshire and to anybody that would say that libertarians are racist, because that's not who we are. It's just not.
No.
All right. Y'all have a great rest of your night.
Bye.